She asks, "What are you looking for in a girl?" And you think she's making conversation. But Machiavelli would arch one dark brow and whisper, "You fool. Why are you still single?" The tone is light, the moment casual, but this is the first scenario, and it's already deadly. This is not a compliment. This is not wonder. This is her attempting to unveil the hidden cracks in your armor. What she's truly asking is, why has no other woman claimed you? Why has no other queen set her flag upon your castle? To the unaware man, this feels flattering. He puffs up and begins explaining. Well, I've just been focusing on myself. I'm waiting for the right person. I've had some bad luck. What he doesn't realize is that every word from his mouth is draining his perceived value. In her subconscious, this is not romance. This is social vetting. She's asking if the tribe of women has rejected you. She's sniffing for social proof. Machiavelli would call this the logic of power reputation. If you are not claimed, you are not desired. And if you are not desired, you are not powerful. That's not a question. That's an ambush. She doesn't care what you say. She's not listening to your preferences. He believes that by proving he is intentional, kind, or unlucky, he will win her trust. But this is a fatal illusion. In Machiavellian terms, he has just placed himself on the defensive, which is always the position of the weaker prince. His explanation betrays a lack of demand. The woman hears it, and beneath her smile, the shift begins. Her curiosity wanes. She sees not a man she must compete for, but a man who is available to available. His social market value drops. Her imagination dries up. She doesn't want a man who has been ignored. She wants a man who has been resisted, who has had to push women away, who radiates such gravitational pull that even he had to retreat from it for his own clarity. The weak man wants to be liked. But Machiavelli says, a prince who relies entirely on the goodwill of others will fall. And fall he does into the pit of her quiet disinterest. She is watching you squirm in the trap. This is a power test cold, calculated, instinctual, and if you answer like a man who has never studied the dark architecture of desire, you will lose her forever. Women don't test you because they're malicious. They test you because they are drawn to strength and repelled by indecision. Machiavelli understood this long before Tinder ever existed. In The Prince, he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." And when it comes to attraction, a woman doesn't desire a man she can predict. She desires a man whose world she must earn entry into. Every so-called innocent question she asks is actually a door with two outcomes, domination or disqualification. You're not on a date. You're in an interrogation chamber where the lighting is soft, the wine is sweet, and the stakes are absolute. There is one law. Power must never be negotiated. It must be demonstrated. The core romantic pain every man carries is this: he wants to be chosen without being tested. He wants love without conquest, devotion without mystery, loyalty without resistance. But women do not fall for the man who lays out his resume. They fall for the man who makes them question their own worth. The single thesis of this journey is simple. Attraction is not built through answers. It is built through your response to being questioned. A woman doesn't want to be reassured. She wants to feel the force of a man whose reality bends hers, the powerful promise. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to respond to 5 of the most common questions women use to assess your psychological strength, each decoded through the ruthless clarity of Machiavelli himself. Because while modern men are out here looking for signs she likes them, the seducer is listening for signs she's testing him and smiling when she does. That's your invitation. That's your battlefield. And now we begin. She tilts her head, lips curled in curiosity, eyes flickering with a strange, dangerous sweetness. Now comes the collapse. The weak man answers the question. He believes he must justify his singleness. The power response to, "Why are you still single?" is not to explain, justify, or soften your edges. It is to sharpen them. You look at her not cold, but calm, not arrogant, but certain. You let a beat pass. Then, intrigue, because she can't place you into any of her pre-written scripts. She leans in and speaks with softness, but beneath the softness is an edge of strategy. He no longer represents a fortress she must storm. He has handed her the keys and asked if she'll stay. I observe where the energy leads. No promises, no declarations. Only mystery wrapped in masculine direction. Machiavelli taught that control is rooted in unpredictability. By refusing to be pinned down, you become a force she must continue studying. You've told her that you are not someone who needs a relationship. You are someone who chooses it only when it proves exceptional. That phrasing, where the energy leads, communicates spiritual depth without commitment. It keeps her in orbit, keeps her guessing, and most critically, keeps her working to earn clarity from you. In her subconscious, this triggers an erosion of polarity. Attraction is not about symmetry. It is about asymmetry, one person orbiting another. The weak man, in trying to lock her in, locks himself out of the dynamic she craves, one where she must work to earn emotional elevation. The man who jumps at the idea of a future is seen as trying to contain her, not because he's strong, but because he's afraid she'd drift away. And nothing lowers attraction faster than fear disguised as affection. What she's really asking is, are you going to lock yourself into my frame? This is a question that demands vision, but most men hear it as a demand for compliance. The typical male collapses here. He interprets her curiosity as an ultimatum. He panics and responds with eager clarity. I really like you. I can see us getting serious. I want something real. These are the words of a man already conquered. He has offered his future like tribute. Machiavelli would recoil. The prince does not give away his kingdom to be liked. He measures. He calculates. He controls perception. Finally, respect, and with it, desire. Because the man who doesn't flinch when tested is the man whose power cannot be faked. In her subconscious, the ancient algorithm of attraction kicks in. She sees you as socially selected, pre-vetted, and unavailable by choice. You're not single because you're unwanted. You're single because your standards eliminate the unworthy. Suddenly, she feels herself wanting to be one of the worthy. The dynamic has shifted. She is no longer evaluating you. She is being evaluated by you. You've passed the test not by answering, but by refusing to kneel to the question. And in that refusal, you became the man she cannot forget. Then you say, because it takes a lot to keep my attention. That's it. No apology, no backstory, no elaboration. You drop it like a dagger wrapped in velvet. Now she's the one scrambling to interpret. This answer is Machiavellian seduction incarnate. You've reframed the question. You didn't accept her frame of evaluation. You flipped it. Now she's wondering, what kind of women failed to hold him? What kind of standards does he have? What would I need to do to keep his attention? This is power. And more importantly, this is what Machiavelli would call fear-respect, the sense that you cannot be easily swayed, bought, or seduced. You didn't offer your vulnerability. You offered your mystery. Subcommunicated beneath your answer is a world she must qualify for, a world that won't open easily. Her perception shifts instantly. First, confusion, because most men scramble to prove their worth, and you didn't. The second question cuts even deeper. Where do you see this going? It arrives after a few dates, or perhaps a few intimate nights. When a man rushes to define the relationship on her terms, he has surrendered his power of negotiation. Now consider the power response. You look at her again, calm, centered, unreadable, and you say, I don't rush to define things. Her mind doesn't react with disappointment. It reacts with investment. Because in that moment, she realizes she's not holding the map. You're walking with her, A girl passes. Maybe it's someone on a screen. That kills attraction. Machiavelli warned rulers never to try and be all things to all people. She asks, "Do you think she's pretty?" And you glance, pause, then say, "She's attractive, but not interesting." Boom. You told the truth, but you held the frame. You acknowledged beauty without apologizing for your biology. You didn't flinch. You didn't grovel. You simply made a distinction beauty alone doesn't move you. That single line reveals everything. Your standards, your strength, your indifference to external validation. It tells her you're not blind, but it also tells her you're not easily swayed. And most importantly, it tells her that while other women may be beautiful, she is the one you're giving time to. That subtle Machiavellian twist truth, cloaked in selectivity, is catnip to her instincts. When a woman sees that you'll throw your own honesty under the bus to protect her ego, she may smile in the moment, but her subconscious stores the betrayal. First, her ego tests you again, perhaps with a joke or a playful jab. But underneath, a fire starts. She sees that you are a man, not afraid of beauty, but also not imprisoned by it. You are not threatened by your own desire, and that makes you more desirable. In that moment, she realizes she can trust you, not to be perfect, but to be real. And paradoxically, that trust increases her willingness to compete for your attention, not because you lied, but because you told the truth in a way that elevated your power. In Machiavellian fashion, you've asserted dominance not through cruelty, but through unapologetic composure. You are now the man who can handle her tests without bending, the man whose honesty makes him untouchable. You are no longer the man who leads her. You are the man who dances for her approval. Your desire, your raw, unapologetic masculine appetite, has now been sterilized in her presence. And without desire, there is no polarity. Without polarity, there is no seduction. You've neutered yourself, not with words, but with cowardice. Her voice is light, teasing, and you laugh, not realizing she just set a psychological landmine. This is not about another woman. This is about your frame. The real question is, will you seek my approval for your desire? Will you shame yourself for noticing beauty? The weak man takes the bait. He scrambles. No, not really. She's okay. I don't even like blondes. He thinks he's being clever. He thinks he's diffusing tension. In reality, he is denying his own desire to soothe hers. And that is the most emasculating signal he could ever send. She's not steering the direction. She is the passenger in a vehicle of masculine composure, and that is precisely what ignites her deepest feminine instincts. She wants to earn a place in your future, not be handed it. Your refusal to give a linear, needy answer plants a seed of obsession. Now she starts watching your behaviors closer. She begins performing more femininity in your presence. She wants to be chosen, not given a default role. In Machiavellian terms, you've maintained the illusion of distance and scarcity, which forces her to rise in value in her own mind, just to maintain your attention. You've converted a question designed to cage you into an invitation for her to prove her worth. The shift is immediate and irreversible. You are no longer the man hoping this works out. You are the king watching what kind of queen she becomes. The third question is so disarming, so sugary on its surface, that most men are seduced by its sweetness before realizing it as a blade. Do you think she is pretty? When a man lies about his own instincts just to avoid temporary discomfort, he reveals his primary allegiance, her feelings over his truth. Now the power responds. It's a delicate moment, but you must deliver it with complete ease. Her reaction is layered. Now the fourth question arrives, disguised as care, but built as a pressure point. Why didn't you text me back? She might say it with a pout, a smile, or mock indignation. But make no mistake, this is a full-spectrum diagnostic. She's not asking for communication. You smile just slightly and say, I don't live on my phone. Internally, a recalibration occurs. She was hoping to shake your composure, but you didn't flinch. You didn't rush to soothe. You remained sovereign. She says it softly, in a late-night moment, or after a short absence. But the implications are volcanic. This is not about affection. It's about power distribution. She is not asking if you have emotions. She is asking, do your emotions orbit me? Most men fall like dominoes here. Of course I do. They gush. I couldn't stop thinking about you. They believe vulnerability will unlock her warmth. But in doing so, they shift the axis of the dynamic. They center her as the emotional gravity and themselves as the one spinning around it. Machiavelli would scoff. He warned against giving away power under the illusion of intimacy. This is that illusion. The weak man doesn't realize that while women enjoy hearing they are missed, they crave the mystery of not knowing how deeply they've penetrated your emotional kingdom. When you give too much, too soon, the mystery dies. And with it, the heat. And that makes her feel what no apology ever could: respect. She may tease you. She may challenge you again. But beneath it, she's drawn in deeper. Now, you're not the man who chases. You're the man whose attention must be earned. You've made your time a scarce resource. And Machiavelli was crystal clear on this. Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. The appearance you just gave her? A man so grounded in his own path that texting is not his leash. That appearance, to her ancient brain, is irresistible. Then you let the silence breathe. No over-explaining, no defense, no guilt. Just a calm assertion of your world. That line is a fortress. It says, I am not bound to instant access. My time is governed by purpose, not by demand. You haven't disrespected her. You've reasserted your value hierarchy. You've reminded her, subtly but firmly, that you exist in a rhythm larger than digital dependency. You are not constantly available, and therefore, you are valuable. Availability breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds predictability. Predictability kills attraction. But distance? That keeps the fire alive. She's probing your time value, your independence, your emotional availability. What she's really asking is, am I in control of your attention? Do you fear losing me? This is one of the most sophisticated power tests because it hides behind vulnerability. It tempts the man to prove he's good, attentive, responsive, everything social conditioning has taught him to be. And so, the weak man leans in. He apologizes. I was really busy, sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you. I swear I was going to message. He thinks he's being polite, but what he's actually doing is this surrendering the throne. He validates her assumption that his time belongs to her, and that any failure to respond immediately is a problem to be corrected. He has just placed himself below her in the hierarchy. Machiavelli taught that a prince must never allow himself to be perceived as dependent upon the opinions of the people. In romance, the same law applies. When a man treats a simple pause in messaging as a sin to be confessed, he kills mystique. He reveals his fear. And once fear is exposed, control is lost. Her subconscious doesn't read his apology as respect. It reads it as submission. The spell breaks. He is now the man who panics at her disappointment, the man who fears her withdrawal more than he values his boundaries. She may still see him as sweet, but attraction does not survive on sweetness. It feeds on the tension between presence and distance, certainty and enigma. And that tension just collapsed. Now, the Machiavellian response. She says, "Why didn't you text me back?" Her response is instantaneous, even if she hides it. Then comes the fifth and final question, so innocent, it's almost always overlooked. Do you miss me? The tragedy of the weak man's response to, "Do you miss me?" is that it feels so right in the moment. He believes openness will create connection. He believes expression will deepen the bond. But what he fails to understand is this: emotional expression only generates attraction when it is scarce and hard-earned. Why? Because you didn't give her the outcome. It's not about being cruel. It's about being immovable. Machiavelli didn't preach manipulation for the sake of manipulation. He preached control for the sake of preservation. And what you're preserving in each interaction is not your ego, but your polarity. Because attraction dies the moment the woman knows she has full control. She may think she wants reassurance, but what she craves is the chase, the challenge, the calibration of a man whose world she has not yet conquered. Every innocent question she asks is a probe, a whisper of challenge from her subconscious, asking, can he lead me? Or will he fold for me? You gave her the uncertainty, and uncertainty is the soil where obsession grows. You win not by chasing her emotions, but by mastering your own. Machiavelli would say the wise prince ensures that appearances always serve his purpose. You must appear calm, composed, selective, because in doing so, you awaken the deepest romantic instinct inside her, the desire to be chosen by a man who does not choose easily. In every moment, your words, your silences, your pauses, they must all communicate one thing: I am the reward. You are not auditioning. She is. And the moment she senses that shift, the game becomes hers to lose. That is power. That is seduction. That is the Machiavellian art of being unforgettable. She starts replaying your words, analyzing their meaning, searching for signs in your tone. You've become the mystery. The man whose heart is a locked room with only one key, and she's not sure if she has it yet. That doubt is everything. That doubt is desire. Machiavelli taught that the prince must always be feared, just enough to remain respected. In seduction, fear becomes intrigue, and intrigue becomes obsession. By keeping your emotional cards close to your chest, you preserve the game, the gravity, the spark. When a man becomes a fountain of affection without being asked to earn that access, he becomes emotionally predictable and therefore less psychologically engaging. The more he professes his longing, the more she feels she has already won him. And once the game is over, the desire vanishes. He may think he's being romantic, but to her subconscious, he has just disqualified himself from the role of the strong, sovereign male. He has revealed dependency disguised as devotion. The moment she knows she could walk away, and he would collapse, she starts to lose interest. The power response, however, is poetic precision. She asks, do you miss me? And you pause just enough to make her heartbeat stutter and say, I remember moments. That's it. That's all. It's ambiguous. It's haunting. It's deeply masculine. You haven't denied your feelings. You've simply refused to package them in a way that makes you appear emotionally enslaved. Instead of saying, I missed you every minute, you offer a shard of memory. A taste. You let her imagination fill in the rest. This is what Machiavelli understood about power and perception. You don't need to show the whole map. You show the terrain that matters. In that one line, you imply depth without surrender, emotion without exposure, interest without need. Her reaction is a paradox. She may pout. She may press for more, but internally she's ignited. These 5 responses are not lines, they are philosophies. Each one draws from a deeper truth, that powering romance is not about domination, but about sovereignty. And every power response is your answer, not in explanation, but in energy. You pass the test not by outperforming other men, but by never entering the race. Let's now etch these 5 power responses into your practical arsenal. They are not to be memorized like tricks. They are to be lived as mindsets. You remain unapologetically self-governed. I don't live on my phone. That line is not an excuse. It is a boundary, a declaration that you are not on call for dopamine validation. Because if you've made it this far, you already know something has shifted. You're not listening like a casual viewer. You're listening like a man who is awakening. The next time she smiles and drops a question that feels innocent, remember, it is a test, a quiet attempt to measure your gravity. And in that moment, you will not flinch. You will not perform. You will not explain. You will respond from the throne, not from the pedestal. And when you do, something electric will pass through her. A flicker of respect, a flush of uncertainty, a whisper of obsession. That's when you'll know you've passed. That's when you'll feel her reality tilting toward yours. And when she whispers the most intimate, seemingly innocent of questions, do you miss me? And when you're ready to ascend even further, click into the next session, where we'll expose how desire is not sparked by words, but by tension, ambiguity, and the power of silent conquest. The seduction spiral continues, and she won't even see it coming. You place the entire emotional game into a single unforgettable line. I remember moments. You say it like a king, remembering the scent of a war-touched rose reel, but unreachable. These lines, when spoken from the right place, become more than words. They become architecture. They build a reality where your time, your attention, your approval, and your emotion are not given, they are earned. When she asks, "Why are you still single?" you answer with calm fire, "Because it takes a lot to keep my attention." Control over the endless hunger for her approval. This is the lesson that today's men have forgotten. The man who reveals too much, gives too fast, mends too easily, is the man who teaches her to stop craving him. Every act of over-explaining, justifying, apologizing each is a micro-collapse of masculine frame. It tells her, you can move me, you can shape me, I am soft in your presence. And yet, she is not drawn to softness alone. She wants strength clothed in warmth. She wants the man who sees her beauty, but isn't blinded, who hears her tests, but doesn't dance, who offers emotion, but never begs to share it. The man who withholds, not from cruelty, but from knowing the immense value of what he holds inside. That response speaks of self-respect, mystery, and quiet dominance. It tells her you're not waiting to be chosen, you are the one who filters. When she tests your emotional submission with, "Where do you see this going?" you hold your frame and reply, "I don't rush to define things. I observe where the energy leads." You don't kneel to her craving for security. You invite her into the spiritual tension of the unknown. When she pokes at your desire with, "Do you think she's pretty?" you stay sovereign and say, "She's attractive, but not interesting." You do not flinch at beauty. You recognize it, but you remain unmoved, anchored in deeper standards. When she presses with the test disguised as hurt, "Why didn't you text me back?" This is the Machiavellian way. Not cruelty, not games. Control. Control over your need to be liked. Control over your instinct to rush into emotional availability. And now, the session must end, but not the transformation. Now, take what you've had and enter the next test with eyes wide open and a heart encased in steel.